This is the last basement that I actually managed, where I managed the build of the basement, and it was finished around about December 2012. Today is December the 13th, 2014, 2 years later, and although the house above is pretty much finished and they live in it, the basement's been left because in the ICF days I didn't know about these little vertical cracks that you get in the wall, which now that I've been taking the formwork off for the last 2 years, I've learned how to prevent, and we don't get them anymore. But I'm back here today because they want to actually fit out the basement, and they've got 3 of these sites which I've just chiselled out. Took 5-10 minutes each. I'm going to fill them in a minute. There are 2 more which are kind of, if you like, doubtful, so I'm doing 5, but they've asked me to come and do 3. Anyway, I also want to show you their heating because I think they've done very well in designing what they've designed. We've got a water storage tank here, don't know why, but they have. The mains water trickles into this as required. However, when they perhaps the feed is quite slow, so when they're demanding water, it's actually pumped by this 3 kilowatt pump here, which means that they get good pressure throughout the house no matter what they're doing. The only 2 sources of heating they have for this home are underfloor heating in the ground floor. That's why, well, the span here is up to 9 meters, which is pretty big really. Because of the span and because of the underfloor heating above, they chose a cast in situ top to the basement. So I did this concrete roof or ceiling as well. Okay, the basement is ventilated. You can see one in the corner, there's another one to the right. One of them it brings air in and the other one takes air out. So the basement is dried but not heated. They also have a log burner in the lounge, so the underfloor heating is only designed to be 80% sufficient in the very worst weather, but that's fine because in the worst weather they burn logs. Okay, the system is they've got ground source heat pump, and that heat extracted from the ground comes into here and goes into the underfloor heating. So the underfloor heating is warmed by ground source heat pump, and this is powered in part at least by the photovoltaic cells on the roof. The underfloor heating heats up the air in the house, and in due course the air in the house is expelled and fresh air brought in, and heat is recovered with the heat recovery ventilation. However, sometimes on demand, this larger lower part is the hot water tank, and the bit above is a built-in air source heat pump. So when the water tank requires more heat, it's air that's on its way out of the house that goes through the air source heat pump. So that means that the air source heat pump is always taking heat out of quite warm air and is therefore very efficient. He was telling me that the air source heat pump people won't tell you, but actually when it's very frosty outside, which it has been this week, that the air source heat pumps outside aren't really that great. Why am I not surprised that somebody doesn't tell the whole truth? But there we are. But he was very, very pleased with this. Now, they've lived in here for the last 6 months, despite the basement being finished 2 years ago. But they've only very recently fitted all sorts of sensors and clever gizmos to the electrics to see exactly what's going on. And he tells me that in the first month they were able to measure, which, bearing in mind that we're in the middle of December and it's been very frosty for the last week, is quite a cold time of year, their total purchase from the National Grid was £26. This is for all their heating, lighting and cooking, £26 for the month. Now, if that were multiplied by 12, that wouldn't be entirely terrific, but it won't be, because in the summer they will be selling electricity from their photovoltaic cells to the National Grid and getting some money back, and for a large part of the year they'll be self-sufficient, the photovoltaic cells equaling their demand. So if we said that for 4 months of the year, or even 5, that they were going to be spending £26, which is 130 for the whole year, this is all heating, lighting and cooking, well, in the summer they're going to be selling something back, and whether it comes to £130 or not, I don't know, but it's going to be something So their heating, cooking, lighting energy requirement from the national grid is £130 a year or less, and that to me seems pretty good. It's all very well aiming for zero, but your investment is going to start to be huge. If I recall correctly, and I'm sure I do, then we built the whole house out of ICF. I don't know what the roof's got in it, but they've got 50 mil of insulation on the inside and 75 mil outside in the basement, and then when it gets above ground it's 50 mil on the inside and 100 mil outside. So it's 150 mil of insulation above ground, that's the insulation and of course the air tightness that gets them these results.